Okay, two videos today as I had to take a call. Um, 8-9 will, let's see what the action is before I say what it will be. So 8-9 suited is a pretty great hand, but I don't see it as a awesome squeezing hand just because I generally want to use Broadway cards to unblock aces, kings, queens, and jacks. So, and an ace also is quite helpful. So we're looking to like not block eights and nines, although eights and nines likely call. We definitely don't want to use like sixes, fives, or fours because those are the ones we want to fold out when we have a hand like this. Um, I think. Well, even if we have overs, they're not super great overs. But also, I think too nice a hand to let go. I think as much as we don't want to cold call from the small blind, I have allowed myself those actions when facing the early position open, especially versus small sizes. So at some point, maybe I can raise this and have the preflop initiative to counterbalance the out of position disadvantage. But I think in this particular case, I decided to call and see a flop and hope that we smash a flop. And we don't. We don't at all. So if we face any betting at all, we're folding. There's nothing here for us to continue against. And so we fold. But that's the thinking pre-flop on that particular hand. Weak cutoff open with no stats. Generally, if they're raising, I'm folding. They got a short stack though, so you know I could see this being a better fold than a raise. But I tried to go for a squeeze out against a weak player. I think in this hand it's all exploitation, and then we get called from buddy beside us. VPIP 33, pre-flop raise of 0, and then we go three-way. So we hope for the best and don't get it. Two overs, crummy overs, and no redraw, to say the least. Like a straight redraw, maybe at the very best. And when we check it, they go bananas, and we're going to fold. 10-9, again, similar to that 9-8 hand, easily worth three betting, easily. But small blind versus big blind can hit a monster hand. I don't know. I think probably three betting here is better than calling. What did I do? I called. I think it's worth reconsidering this, taking the initiative, and using it to fold out queen high, king high, even jack high hands. Now we get a 9, which is pretty sweet, especially with an ace. Now they, of course, have a full house with aces, but everything else we're beating other than ace 9. So the question is, how do we play this hand without basically turning it face up? And so with half pot bet, I decided I can let this. I can float here. I can make a call. I don't have to show aggression right away, especially into an ace. We can continue down the road of building a pot and then find a more natural place to put a raise in if they continue betting, hoping that they polarize, and we'll just let the play run out that way. Protect a calling range. It's well protected. The queen. So now queen 9 is there, and queens are also there, but very little part of a pretty wide range, right, with the small blind opening. So then they check. Now we need to put money in. We can bet a queen. We can bet all our queens, I think. What size would we bet queens, though? We would bet them likely for a smaller size and look for it to get check raised by an ace or called by an ace. I don't know whether we ever bet big with just a bare queen. So part of me thinks it's better to bet small and hope for a check raise, or yeah, check raise, and then just let them polar us to the river. But I suspect I bet big, hoping that an ace will call, which they do. And then when we get checked again, now I think we want to overbet. Probably could have afforded to do a bigger overbet, maybe 40, and because we're getting called from an ace. Oh, we're getting called from a queen nonetheless. Sweet. So they slowed down because they made a pair now and had showdown value. Interesting that they didn't believe that I had an ace. I wonder if we had bet 40 or 50 if they would have folded then. But anyway, that's a pretty good hand. I mean, you can't really go wrong flopping trips unless everything goes haywire. I think generally I played that all right. Let's see what the solver thinks. It's always checking to see what the solver thinks. And 9. Call, yeah, so it's all calling on the flop. B75 is slightly tiny sliver worse than B50, but just fine. And then our sizing on the river a little too high, so it actually wants to go smaller. I guess it's that size in its little mind thinks is still capable of being check raised. I would imagine. Let's just look at the machine's play here for a medium-sized bet as opposed to that big bet. So if we went 60, what raises? Aces raise. No queens are there. Ace 9 raises. That's nutted. King 9 raises, which beats us. Queen 9 raises, which beats us. Basically, full houses only are raising. So I guess it's more, it's not actually looking to get raised, it's more of a protective bet, and that larger bet is more troubling. Like betting 107, say. There's no solve. Betting 150. Yeah, it's basically an all-in, which they're going to do if we are queen 9. Yeah. All in at 3, 31, 78, 89, 32. Yeah, so the all in is not a good size there either. So because we're not fully nutted, we're just kind of strong value. There's no point in getting crazy. That's kind of where I went wrong yesterday. So all good. I think in the end we did that just fine. It's a good hand that. Give ourselves one good hand today. Raise. So again, we could squeeze. Need to be raising more. But because we don't have big card blockers, and we have cards that we're hoping to get folds from ish, we should play a little bit more cautiously, I guess, at some points. There's a bet, a small C bet. I decide I can call with backdoors. No, I don't. I fold. Look at that. I don't think that necessarily is such a good idea. But I've seen crazier. Yeah, that hand was a mistake. Oh, no, it's not. There's a mix of calls and folds, so that's okay. So we could have called. That's fine. This is all right. Calls and folds. I feel like sometimes it's worth calling if a 10 came, especially hearted, obviously, but a 10 anything. If a 6 came, if 9 or 8 comes, we might have some showdown value. Another heart comes. Like there's a lot of good turns for us, and we can put a lot of pressure on an ace. They don't even have to have aces. We can rep an ace. There's a lot we can do there. So I think probably my instinct in the analysis to call is probably the better instinct. So let's just make a note. Mix, call, and fold in Sims, but wouldn't mind a call here a little more often. Good things can happen. A7. So standard open call. Big blind has lots of aces. We have lots of aces. This is a pretty standard check spot for me to protect the checking range with the top pair. Flush comes in. We get a half pot bet. I don't think we're going anywhere yet. We have to call. I think it's just a call. It's a mandatory call. And then when another half pot bet comes, now I'm questioning whether I need that. I probably should call, but I don't know whether I need to call. Such a weak hand. But it's probably half dozen of one. A7 on this board. Yeah, it's all fine. Check, check. Turn, river is it's actually a fold. Good. I should have trusted my gut. We got lots of other better aces to call with. So this is a fine. This is a river. River fold. Lots of other better aces. I know there was another hand that's similar to this that I did fold. So it'll be interesting to see if that is a different idea. Queen 6. Now that is a hand to raise 3-bet. Get tons of great folds from that. There's no point in calling this hand. Raise it. Raise the jack suited and the queen suited. The shitty jack and queen suited hands. Raise those. Those are great ammunition for raises. So I wish I had raised there because the flop was kind of dog shit. 6, yeah, it's like a double gutter. So nothing, not worth drawing to a flush. Not worth drawing with an overcard to with our side card, etc. Just defending again could be useful as a 3-bet, but now we're kind of getting a little crazy. Like if we 3-bet all of these hands, we'd just be betting tons of hands. So I think we just want to see a flop and see what happens. Nothing happens. A7 is standard small blind open, get a call. Again, similar spot to the one we're on the button. Protecting a checking range. Now he's betting a little harder. I think we have to call at least one street. We're in the small blind. We have top pair. And even though they're polarizing, we're calling so many other hands, right? Worse hands. We're calling with queens, definitely on the flop, queens. We're calling with king hands on the turn that might have got there, like king 10 or king jack. It's pressure, but it's only 3/4 pot. It's not like they're over bets, and they could be. The ultimate question though is like what are they betting this size for? Is it great aces? If they had a great ace, why didn't they raise? Are they bluffing? What would be the bluffs? Queen 10 got there. King now has showdown value, so king 10 likely doesn't bet. King jack likely doesn't bet. Not queen 10, jack 10. And then queen, like what queens want to bet here? Like it's basically aces, right? It's some big ace or medium size ace is charging queens and kings and lesser pairs. So I think I called again. And then when the river came and it was also a 5 and they didn't slow down, I just fold. What I could potentially do would be raise a paired 5, but raising into a polar bet is likely not going to be worth it, and this particular hand is likely not the hand to do it with. But it makes me ask the question, it's this one. what the solver would do. So it's calling, 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 and then it's folding too, but it's mixing calls and folds, and actually the EV is slightly better, a half a blind better to call. But that's assuming that this guy is betting some pretty thin value, I think, at it's more than 54%. It's more like 61%. So their top pair is, wait, bet 61. Top pair is checks pretty well, except for ace queen. Everything else is trips, straights, quads, full houses, and then a bunch of bluffs. So yeah, we're essentially bluff catching all of this garbage down here. And the middle, jack fours and this kind of thing, are they finding those? Are they finding those bluffs? At my level, I doubt it. I doubt it. So I bet you if you reran that sim minus all of those hands in their bet range, okay, fold. I don't think they have enough bluffs here to make a call worthwhile. Of course, I sat for quite a while looking at their stats. 42 VPIP. That's quite wide, pretty aggressive in terms of raising. No 3-bets though. So they're aggressively opening, and then they're not aggressively fighting against opens. So they actually have quite a strong range in that spot because they don't 3-bet at all over 12 hands. So they could very easily have ace, queen, king, ace, jack, ace, like all kinds of good hands. Quads, easy, fives. Fives are absolutely in that range. All this stuff is in our range, but I think we just want just a better ace. I think we bluff catch with a much stronger ace. I think. 6-2, somehow we back into, get a pair, but there's no point in calling a pot size bet. Ace jack, we're going to squeeze out. They call. Good board for us, but we check it anyways. I think we probably could bet out there. Probably a third bet would be worth it. We'll get a fold. 9 does nothing more for us. Now we're just showdown bound if we can get there, and we can't. And there's nothing keeping us in the hand. Pretty obvious, I think. 6 is open, 10 re-raise. This is a pretty loose call on my end, and I don't really know why I decided to do it. Usually I fold, but I called just to see, and we got nothing. So usually I fold. Like this, that's just a fold almost always, and I don't know why I decided to call. King 3 defend. King with a backdoor. Non-nut flush draw. Small bet. We call. Big bet. We fold. Even with a pair. That I'll bet you the solver would probably say we shouldn't have. Like, why are we there if we're going to fold a pair? Small blind versus big blind. Oh no, it's okay with it. Fold. Some mixed fold. It's fine. 5's open. It's a bunch of limpy bullshit. And it's just going to be checked. I don't think there's any point in there where we need to bet. What calls that's better or worse? What folds is better? Do 7s fold? Do 10s fold? I don't know. 9s, 8s? Maybe. I don't know. Like we're just a bunch of shitty ranges, right? So maybe turn. None of those cards really benefit us. But maybe here. This would be the only spot I wonder maybe would be worth betting. But bad player, somewhat okay-ish, but a little wide player. Like, yeah, I guess both of these things incentivize us to put a little bit of money in there, and maybe we're just not like, what is, are we actually getting better folds? What are we doing with that hand into all of these people? I think we just try to get to showdown and see if we get lucky to be the ones that win. And we are the ones that win. I guess on the turn, flop and turn, we're kind of not loving these two hands, although they're, again, such wide ranges that they just happen to show up with aces. And the fives potentially could protect. Against wide ranges, we should probably see bet a little bit more just to start to thin the field, and lots of their ranges are going to go down. But because there's three people, that c bet almost for sure is going to get called by a very tight range, like i.e. a king, maybe something like we'll just end up facing a better range when we do bet. So here we just get to showdown and end up somehow having the best hand. It's all of these kind of cold cally like wimpiness makes it difficult at points to really know what the best strategy would be. I think caution into lots of people is probably ultimately the best strategy. Ace nine, we should potentially re-raise, but again, we're just calling. I really want to try and get that big blind range to raise more, especially against small opens, and particularly against those early position players. I will absolutely raise ace nine against the button, for sure against the small blind, but usually I think there's a good case to be made to open it or to raise it against the cutoff as well. We flop good. Nice, super beautiful draw. And we'll let him bet. And they do. And we raise, which I think at this point is probably okay. It is a half pot bet. If we get re-raised, we're kind of not loving the world. Maybe these ace nine diamonds. Usually, a lot of times I'll just call them. Just give a nice strong calling range with the draw. But at some points, I think raises are worth putting in. Maybe non-nut raise, non-nut cards would be more likely to be raised. Yeah, there's some raises. Probably want to go a little bit bigger, but they're okay. So at some points we have to raise. Now we pick up a really nice ace, and we have a lot of equity now. So we should polarize, and we don't. Bad James. There's no reason to check that hand when we've already started betting. Is it so good that I don't want to pull them out? Is that why I didn't bet? I don't know. Is it too much of a scare card that I figure, oh, I'm going to lose my customer? Why not continue betting? Why not put a small bet in? Like, for sure, medium, small, even a 3/4 bet could easily get called. There's all kinds of hands that would call. They potentially have a 2-pair. So we could be setting ourselves up to get kind of hammered. But I don't see any world where we fold top pair with a nut flush draw as well. So even if money starts going in, I think we're putting it in behind and just trying to double our stack. Like, so maybe a small downsize bet maybe would be better there. I would think we are super heavily nutted and our range has strengthened as well. King 10. We don't have aces. We don't have queens. We were the preflop caller. We certainly have king 10. And they have probably, well, I think we both share aces. They will have queens and jacks. So that's their nuts. Anyway, we do check, and the river comes, and we put a half pot sized bet in that gets called by, I'm betting a queen of some sort, king queen maybe, or worse ace, kings, 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 kings. So we could have gotten paid a little bit better. I don't know about this hand. It's all generally okay. Yeah, that a downsize bet. Oh, it is actually on the ace. We check a lot. So maybe because we have queen X and jack X that do put in these bets, check raises. Now, when the ace comes, we're less enthusiastic about continuing to put money in. So a check is actually worth having, even though we're very strong. And then the river, I guess, is a certain amount of induction, but doesn't seem like there's a ton of difference between a smaller and a medium-sized bet. But the downsized bet probably is not hurting anybody. Anyway, we won a hand. Just be happy about that. And I think we're pretty close to being done on the aces. So yeah, this aces hand is where I lost a lot of my equity. So I flopped top set on an otherwise medium board. We check a lot of aces already. And so I think with top set, because we block so many aces, we have to check it. There's no value in raising because they're not going to have an ace to call. So we have to call. It's actually a somewhat unfortunate hand. 6 is not the best turn, certainly not for our range. And 10-7 got there, but they're on the button, so 10-7's probably no good. 9-8's still two paired, better than us. We have 8s and 9. We share the nut. We share most of the nuts, I think. But any super pressure, I think, is a problem because they don't have an ace to withstand it generally. But then when they polar-ish move a bet size up on the turn, I start to wonder, is there a place for us to raise now? Or do we want to just allow them to keep putting money in? And I don't know, see a river raise maybe? The jack comes, and again, not the best card for us, but I want to try and get a little bit more money in there, so I do lead. And I lead on the jack. Not totally sure whether there's any way that I could rep. Well, I can't rep 10-7, and the nuts have changed. We are actually not fully nutted, so there's no big polar bet. Whatever it is, Queen 10 now wins, and set of jacks. Do they raise? Set of nines, like slow played. Do they raise? It just seems more than anything that they actually have the case ace. So could we have sized bigger and put this into our strong value? Do we underplay this hand? I think probably we did, and I think the machine will say that we did. Yeah. No, it's this hand. So check's good, call's good, check. So we do have some pretty hefty raises on the river, or no, on the thingamabobby here, the turn, but we just don't have any leads on the river. So it just doesn't like that. You know, that's me desperate to put more money in. I think we should just probably have gone for it. for the raise, even though they were B75. We could double their bet. 6 and 6 is 12. Yeah, 24 plus. Yeah. We have a monster and are not getting stacks in. Turn is where we can raise. And you know, beef 150, R 150, R 100. What was it? R 150. When the case ace is there, we essentially get a call, and also we get calls from other sets and two pair. Lots of value to get calls from. This is a repolar spot to pay attention to. All right, so that's an unfortunate hand. Again, not getting the value we need when we have the opportunity to get it. X and how many more hands do we got? That's still a lot of hands. Those aces. Do a couple actually. You know what? I think we're gonna just knock off now. I can never get through all these hands because I'm just so verbosely chitty chatty. But anyway, I think we get some stuff worth talking about there. I might start pre-editing the hands we look at and just focus on less obvious spots. But this is helpful, and yeah, I'm sorry for if you had to suffer through a lot of ramble. But let's continue good play like this tomorrow.